it appears we have a time certain in about 17 minutes, and I'm looking at our agenda, and I'm sitting there going, okay, what can we get done in that period of time? But I'm willing to make an attempt on our general consent calendar. So we'll see what happens, and then we'll go from there. So board members, at this time, we have our general consent calendar. Is there any items that need to be pulled off of the general consent calendar? I'm looking to see if anyone has. Board Member Klein, you have something that you want to pull off?
Yes, number 3, please, the DWS.
Okay. I'm not seeing any other hands. I've got to go back to my consent hand here. Okay. Oh, Board Member Earl. What do you?
Yes, if we could pull off number 4, I'd appreciate it.
Number 4?
Yes.
Is that what you said? Okay. Any other requests? Board Member Cannon?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'd like to move the balance of the consent calendar with items 3 and 4 removed.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the consent calendars with item 3 and 4 removed.
Second.
Board
Any-
member,
Straight.
Do we have a second? Thank you. Any discussion to the motion? Board Member Earl, your hand's raised, but I'm pretty sure that's for your item. So board members, at this time, the motion before the board is that the board approve the consent calendar, removing items number 3 and 4. Board members, at this time, please vote. Okay. Thank you for voting promptly. The motion passes unanimously. Okay, Board Member Klein, you want to speak to item 3?
Okay, so I just wanted to make a motion, or a couple of motions rather. The first one, I move that program level data will be shared with the Department of Workforce Services to fulfill requirements of 53E-4-314 period. No personally identifiable student data will be shared by the Utah State Board of Education. That needs to be added to the end of the disclosure notification to parent or guardian of participant.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second? I'm not seeing a Board Member Earl.
Yes, I second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. You want to speak to your motion? Board Member Klein.
Sorry, I didn't realize my camera was off. I just made this motion so that we can make sure that there's transparency, that the parents realize when they sign their children up that they will be signed when they register their child at the daycare or preschool, that they will be put into this program where that information will be shared, so the parents know that what data is being collected and who it's being shared with.
Okay. Any other discussion from board members? Vice Chair Belknap.
Yes, thank you. I'm not exactly sure because I think Board Member Klein said something a little different than what I think the motion is saying. So I'm looking for a little clarity. In moving forward, you're saying that students who sign up in a preschool program, their parents need to sign off that the State Board of Education will not disclose any of their personally identifiable information to whom?
Okay, there's a question for the
For the motion maker.
motion maker, yeah, so.
I don't know what else to call it.
Okay,
So, Board Member Klein, did you have an intent on,
well, the intent of this motion is to make sure that whatever data is shared with the Department of Workforce Services meets the requirements of that law, and that no personally identifiable student data will be, well, okay, I see what you're saying.
So you can share it, just
so-
clarity. You're
Right,
saying
they
you
can-
can share it as long as parents know it's being shared.
Right, but this is to make parents aware
Okay,
that
so
this information will be shared.
I'm wondering if someone can help us. Thank you.
okay. Vice Chair Davis?
Yeah. I just was wondering, since there's a law that's referenced, is the motion needed? Maybe this is a policy question for one of our policy experts, but is the motion needed if it's already the law?
Yeah, that's, so the
So,
staff,
okay, let me just clarify. This motion is to be added to the end of the notification to the parents. It's just to make the parent aware of what's already in the law so that the parent knows what they're signing up for. That's why, it says to be added to the end of the disclosure notification to parent or guardian or participant. Does that
Follow up, Chair?
make sense?
awareness follow-up, Vice Chair Davis?
Yeah, so it's going to be added to tell them about what we're not going to do. Am I understanding that right? Does that make sense?
That's how it,
I'm trying to figure out if this is superfluous or if this is.
So it's telling them, it's telling that what will be shared and what won't be shared, just so the parent knows that, the Department of Workforce Services won't receive any of the identifiable student data, but the state board will. The state board will receive all of the data, but the state board will only share the disaggregated data with the Department of Workforce Services. Is there a way to make it more clear? Any suggestions?
well, let's see what these other comments are too, but to the motion. Board Member Lear?
I'd like to hear from somebody who's working on this reading initiative, the specialist. I don't know if there's a DWS person in this meeting, or if there's somebody at the USBE who'd be more important, more appropriate. But I would like to hear a response for why this is needed, or why this is already covered, or if all the data are de-identified because the students' names are removed. I just feel like I'm making this decision in a vacuum.
I can speak to that, Board Chair, if you'd like.
I'm trying to see who that was, and I tried to.
Jennifer.
Robinson, Director of Teaching and Learning.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank
So
you, Eddie.
for this particular question, to address Board Member Lear's question, this is already our practice. What Board Member Klein is seeking is just to be more transparent with the parents of what that practice is. So we do share aggregate level data with DWS. We don't share any student identifiable data with them, but we do collect individual student data. So the intention of Board Member Klein was just to be more transparent with families about our practice, but this is what we are required. We already have agreed to do.
Short follow-up for that, Chair.
Yeah.
If that's the case, I don't mind letting parents know that this is the case, but could we say it in the positive? I know that's something that Board Member Earl is a fan of. Could we say that only de-identified data will be shared, or something to that effect, instead of saying it in the negative? And I'm not swift enough to make that wording change on the fly, but I'm sure someone is.
Can I speak to that?
Yes.
Whitney Phillips, Chief Privacy Officer. That sentence that no personally identifiable information or student data will be shared was requested by DWS to be included.
So where is it? Did that get added, or where is it then? And what, or is it this motion that is being
Within the motion, original motion, no person, right there, right in the middle, no personal identifiable student data.
great? So how's this motion necessary then, if it was already requested by DWS? I'm feeling confused.
May I say
Recently
something?
requested by DWS, and Board Member Klein was kind enough
Chair,
to include it in
Huntsman?
this motion.
Okay, that's all I needed. That's what I was asking. Thank you.
Okay. I'm getting, somebody getting flashed about their internet connection, or is that me saying it's not suitable? Is that everybody,
Yes.
or the driver? Okay. Did I hear Angie? Did you want to weigh in on something? Can I be heard? Have we lost our connection?
I can hear you, Chair.
Okay,
I
thank
hear.
All right. Member Earl? Member Earl, your hand was raised. Well, I'm not seeing it now. Member.
I'm sorry. Yes, my hand got kicked off, so I apologize for that.
Okay,
My thing did. Can I make a comment?
you bet, because at 12:30, we're ending this. We'll have to come back. So I'm trying to.
Okay, so the comment is that I think it is just providing parents with information is the primary focus for this, which is the intent.
Okay.
Are we speaking to the first motion? I'm sorry,
Still, we have one motion on the table. Okay, Member Hymas.
Yeah, just quickly. So are we suggesting that we have another document for parents to sign as they fill out the many forms to sign something that's already in place? Is that what I'm understanding?
The last sentence says to be added, part of the motion to be added to the end of the disclosure notification to parent or guardian. So that disclosure form that they have. So it's how and where it goes. And then this amendment or this motion, if approved, then gets added to the agreement.
Thank you.
Okay. Member Hanson.
I think I was thinking along the lines of Board Member Hymas. I just wondered, in the documents that we have, do we have that disclosure so that we can see where this gets tacked in? Is that, I'm looking through the documents and I'm not seeing the parents, what the parents sign. I just wondered if we have that available and we can just see where this would go.
Okay. Jennifer Thompson, can you respond?
Yes, thank you, Board Chair. So what's on the top of that sheet is what we would be giving, and it's just a notification form. There's no signature, it's just knowledge. They read it, they understand it. If they have concerns, they are encouraged to reach out to their school or teacher to say, hey, I don't want to take this assessment, or I'm okay taking the assessment, but I don't want my child's data shared. So they have options. This is just a notification to parents that they would see in their registration packets, but there's no signature required at this time.
Do you have a follow-up, Board Member Hanson?
Yeah, so on this attachment D then, we would just be adding that below the paragraph that's there. So after statutory requirements is where we would be adding this paragraph. And then the only signature is by the preschool program saying that they have provided this disclosure to the parents. Is that right?
Chair, may I respond? That's correct.
Okay. That clarifies.
We don't add it. We require, if this motion goes through, that we require it to be added. This is their form. Is that correct, Jennifer Thompson?
This would be our requirement put into the MOU that the providers would have this form in their packets, and then they would be submitting that statement at the bottom that they have verified that they've notified all families, so that we not only have the notification, but the school or LEA saying we have done our due diligence as well and made sure every parent has seen this information.
Vice Chair Davis?
Sorry, I didn't lower.
Okay.
So
Board
Chair,
Member
excuse me, just
Earl.
one quick follow-up. Could we just see that motion and make sure that how that fits, so we can see how it fits contextually with this? So this is the language that would just go in as paragraph 2. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Member Earl?
I guess as I looked through this over the week, that's where my confusion came into, because it was meant to be a parent disclosure information or just a notification of this. But then I guess the bottom paragraph is where the confusion comes into place, because it looks like an LEA just assurance document. And so I wonder if we could make a motion that there is wording at the bottom that actually articulates that a little bit more. If we wanted to, where a parent actually could verify that, but that would be a separate motion. So I appreciate the clarification. It was very confusing to go through the documentation.
And I understand there's several motions that might be made on this particular item, but we're getting close to that 12:30. I'm going to restate the motion that's before the board, and that is that the board, see, it says in here motion, I move that the program level data will be shared with the, am I reading this right? That's the one. Will be shared with the Department of Workforce Services to fulfill requirements of 53E-4-314. No personal identifiable student data will be shared by the Utah State Board of Education without parental notification, period. And this be added to the end of the disclosure notification to parent or guardian or participant. That is a motion that's on the board. I'm not seeing any other hands raised. Board members at this time, I don't see any other discussion. So board members at this time, please vote. Did I didn't see Vice Chair Belknap. Did you see any nays on this motion?
I did not, and I saw everyone except board member Norton is there now. Thank you.
That's what I'm seeing too. So the motion passes unanimously. Board members, we have a time certain lunch for staff and I guess us too, break. It'll be
Chair
a
Huntsman,
yes.
sorry, this is Lorraine. Actually, a motion needs to be made now to approve the MOU as amended by this motion. It's still an action item. It was amended, but the board needs to approve the actual MOU.
So this is an amendment. This was an
amendment to the MOU, but the board needs to approve the MOU now as amended.
But there's still a couple other motions that people want to make.
Oh, okay. All right, sorry.
We're gonna have to come right back to this item sometime on our agenda.
All right, thanks for the clarification. Thank you.
Our consent item. So right now we're going to have a half-hour break and we'll be right back promptly at 1 o'clock. Thank you. So it seems like the only video that's streaming right now, I believe, is, oh, not Vice. Oh, it was Vice Chair. Oh, now she's gone.
Chair Huntsman, this is Lorraine. I'm not seeing any of the checks or anything. What are you looking at when people are voting?
Miss Lorraine, can you
Yeah.
click on participants? at the
Yeah, I've got
bottom?
I've got the participants up. I saw about 3 checks on the last vote.
You know what, Lorraine? They all came on at some point, but then they
And then
came
clicked
off
off.
again. But I looked at every one of them.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thanks. I'm just gonna rely on you.
Okay, we'll double check, Cindy and I will.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
This is Janet. I'm still on. Didn't Jerry send us something that we could update our Zoom so that the check marks would stay on?
Yes.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Which is helpful.
They're not
So-
staying out though. They go on for a couple seconds and then they drop off.
They still didn't work. Wait, if you've updated your Zoom.
Did you update, Scott?
I believe I did. I hit the button when they said update, but maybe not. I'll go back and see.
Thank you.
And Chair Belknap, I've been asked to just check to see if, we just had a moment where everybody went out of the meeting for a bit, and just wondering if how many are connected to VPN. I'm here in the office and having some issues, but there was a moment when Zoom dropped a bunch of you as board members or got spotty.
You know what? We were able to get all board members, but I don't know that we got all staff back, did we?
I wasn't paying attention for all staff, but it was like a little hesitation, and I'm scanning. It looks like, okay, the board members are on. I could see there was kind of.
And Chair Huntsman waited to have discussion until they were back.
Yeah, and I think once you said that, sir, I heard you say, is somebody getting?
Let me do a quick roll call here. Vice Chair Belknap, are you with us?
Here,
Vice Chair Davis? Member Earl?
Here.
Oh, thank you. Member Earl? Member Earl? Member Hanson?
Yes.
Member Hymas?
Yep.
Thank you. Member Straight?
Yes.
Member Lear?
Here.
Member Khan?
Jake Hannon, I'm here.
Thank you. Member Hart?
Here.
Member Klein?
Here.
Member Moss?
Here.
Member Booth?
Here.
Member Norton?
Yes, here.
You go back. Member Earl? Member Earl?
Chair, we do have a quorum. I'll text member Earl, tell her we're starting.
I'd like you to do. Thank you. All right, we're good to go. We're still in our consent on item 3. Member Klein had asked that to be removed. I think you had more that you wanted to move forward. Member Klein.
Yes. So I have a second motion. I move that if you have that the wording, if you have concerns or would prefer your child not to be assessed / or data shared, comma, please contact, and then inside brackets, insert program contact information, end of brackets, end quote, be added to the end of the disclosure notification to parent or guardian of participants.
Okay. We have a proposed motion here. Do we have a second?
This is Board Member Earl. I second that.
Okay. Board member with us. Want to speak to your motion, Member Klein?
Sure. So this just gives the parent the option or lets them know they have that option to not participate in the data sharing program. And if they don't want to, then they know what to do on how to opt out of it by talking to their provider, which that information will be inserted for them so that they will know.
Okay. Discussion to the motion. Member Lear?
Rather than sit here confused this time, did DWS also ask for this? Maybe that's to Whitney.
Whitney Phillips, will you please?
Hey, Whitney Phillips. No, the legislature made it very clear that it expects us to conduct this program for preschool programs. And they in the code, they mentioned that the PEEP and the KEEP are not opt-outable. That means that they are not a part of the parent exclusion form like the RISE state assessment is. And but because Utah is very much a parent right, I know that Teaching and Learning has let people know in their programs that if parents do have a concern with sending data or taking the PEEP, that they will respect those parents' rights. However, it's a courtesy, and programs have provided that courtesy, but it is not required. In fact, it is not an opt-outable assessment. So I'm not sure if sharing this as a parent's option is fair, because it seems like the legislature has already spoken that this is not opt-outable. However, there's still a courtesy of parents' rights. Does that make sense?
Sort of. One more follow-up, please, Chair.
Follow-up, yes.
How many people would be required to respond to parent questions or concerns? Would this be one person in every LEA? Is there a centralized person? I'm just wondering at the workload this would add if it were required.
May I speak to that?
Yes, please.
So this is something that when the parent signs the child up for the preschool or daycare, they're already going to be going over stuff. It's just one more thing that they can be notified of when they first sign their child up. So it shouldn't add a lot of backload. And I think it's important that the parents know.
Let me follow up to that, please, Chair. So if the parent is just handing something in, that you're assuming that there's going to be a person that the parent is always going to be providing this to, that would be in the right person to ask this information? Is that not going to be a problem sometimes if it's a technical or clerical person that's receiving these applications?
I think as long as the parent is notified and whoever gives them the notification signs it. I don't know. Is there one of the staff that wants to speak to that?
Yeah, Jennifer Thompson, please.
Good afternoon, Jennifer Thompson, Director of Teaching and Learning. Board Member Lear, this particular addition, I don't think would have any impact. We already deal with this as parents have the right, whenever their child's assessed, to make these decisions. This really just adds some transparency to that option. And by directing who to contact in here allows the LEA to choose, is that a local like school, put the teacher's name or the principal's name in, or is it a district contact, for example, by allowing that flexibility of who goes into that blank. As staff, I don't see any trouble with having this added. It's already a common practice that we have. It's just not usually in writing.
Thanks.
Okay. Board Member Earl.
Yes, and I can see this as actually, I mean, they're inserting the program or they're inserting the contact person. So it does give a very specific person that would have information for this. So it's not just the clerical person or whoever's having paperwork filled out, that type of a thing. It's very specific.
Okay. Vice Chair Belknap.
Yes, thank you. I'm just wondering if we could, if the maker of the motion would be willing to take a friendly, if we can take some friendly amendments here, that instead of all this extra wording, that we put something about questions about testing or data contact, rather than going into all of this wording. I'm not sure the proper way to do that, Miss Lorraine, or do I just need to make an amendment?
Remove.
You just need to make amendments since it belongs to the body now.
Thank you. I haven't put this together yet, so I will get this ready so that I don't take up time, but I also would like to ask if that we, without objection, agree that this is, that the motion above and this one, if it passes, that it could be added to the document, not necessarily at the end, but where it flows best.
Okay, well, you can make that also an amendment to have it included, but not necessarily have it.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Okay, Vice Chair Davis.
Just a quick question, if someone could help me understand, if we add this, we're not contradicting the law that says this data has to be submitted. Am I right, or are we contradicting the law? Whether or not, whatever people do out of courtesy or not, I want to know if we're contradicting the law or not.
Okay, Jennifer Thompson.
That's a great question, and I appreciate your conscientiousness about that. The law states for the programs that they are required to administer this assessment. So as long as the provider takes the attempt to deliver this assessment to all students, makes their best attempt, and does that, we are meeting the law in terms of what's required. We are going to have parents that in any situation that choose for one reason or another, but the provider does, as part of the law, say, I will make every attempt possible to give this assessment and collect the data to be able to show program impacts and things like that. But the parents ultimately have the right to decline.
Okay, Board Member Earl, your hand's raised.
Yes, and I apologize. I got thinking and now I apologize. I can't remember my comment now, so.
Okay, Vice Chair Belknap.
Yes, I'd like to make an amendment, please, that we use this verbiage that Jennifer's put up here. If you have questions about the assessment or data collected, please contact blank.
I second the amendment, Board Member Cannon.
Okay, we have an amendment to the motion and a second on it. You want to speak to your proposed amendment, Vice Chair Belknap?
Nope.
Okay. Discussion to the proposed amendment to the amendment. Member Klein?
Yeah, part of the intent of my creating the motion was to include Department of Workforce Services in there so that the parents realize that this is not just data going to the state board, but that it's also connected to a broader government entity. So.
Okay.
Clarity, Chair.
Yes.
Is that going, are you talking to the first motion or the second, Board Member?
I'm
Sorry,
fine.
that was to the first motion.
Yeah,
Is your amendment to the second motion specifically? Okay.
Yeah, the amendment is to the motion that's on the table, which has similar word, yeah. So it has similar wording, but it's been minimized here with a different intent. So we have a proposed amendment Lorraine, do you have a question?
Yes, just a clarification on the amendment. Is it replacing the original language or is it in addition to the original language of the motion?
Replacing the original motion.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the proposed amendment to the original motion states that this would be added, it said, if to the form. If you have any questions about the assessment or data collected, please contact, then insert program contact information. That's a proposed amendment to the motion. I'm not seeing any other hands, well, discussion to the motion. Member Klein, your hand's still raised. Are you speaking to the amendment? Okay, sorry. So the amendment to the motion that's before the board, will vote since I state it, is to say this into that form, or to have this included into the form. If you have any questions about the assessment or data collected, please contact and then insert program contact information. So at this time, members, please vote on the amendment to the original motion. We'll see how this plays out. I didn't catch. Oh, I got it. Yeah.
I've seen everyone, Chair. We have one no.
So the motion passes with member Klein as a no vote. Okay, so the amended motion is that this is included in the form, to be included in the form, this wording. If you have any questions about the assessment or data collected, please contact, insert program contact information. Any discussion to the amended motion? Seeing none, please vote. Board Member Norton, I didn't see.
I see it's unanimous, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Voting's the motion passes. The voting is unanimous. Any other okay, I see some hands raised. Member Earl?
Yeah, and I think that's because the original document, I guess I was unclear about it, but from what I understand, this is a model disclosure notification. And so I guess my motion would be this. I move that on the bottom, that it says, where it says preschool program active parent notification. So I don't know if they've got that there. So that, yeah, where it says assurance instead of assurance, active parent notification. I, parent, have verified that I have been notified by whatever the program is that my child will have a SSID created and then the rest of that. And that's, I guess there was just confusion on that from the beginning, and that's why I was unclear why this assurance was there when this was a parent. I visioned this as a parent notification, and so that's my motion to put that on there. It looks to me if the assurance element needs to be left in there. Oh, I guess I don't need to speak to it. It needs to be seconded first, sorry.
So you're making your motion is to add the active parent notification? Or
yeah, just that bottom part that I included there so that it's part of that model disclosure. It is and it can be just like, well, I guess I need a second.
Okay, well, let's do a second first before you speak to it. But so it would be add active parent notification and then also the word then after verify that I have been. So that's your proposed motion. Is that correct, Board Member Earl?
I'm sorry, it's small on my screen, so I'm trying to read it, so I apologize.
Okay. I'll restate it again, it might help. You're adding where it says at the header of that thing, it's preschool program. Oh, now it disappeared on me. There it is. No. Did I lose it? There it is. Okay, thanks. Okay, can you read it now? Board Member Earl.
Yes.
So it would be adding to that form where it says preschool program, it would add active parent notification. And then in the body of there, it would read I and then state the invariably that I have, and it would add the word been, then it
Okay,
continues.
my wording's just a little different. Let me just say it again so that it's, I, parent, verify that I have been notified by, you could put the program name in there. I guess it's not necessary. Notified that my child will have an SSID created and at that point, the rest of the completion of it. That my child will have a, yes, yep, that's it, that's it. And I guess this just completes that, if it's a disclosure form for parents or a notification form. And that's how I read this in the first place. That's why I was confused by this language. And that's why I asked to move this motion forward so that it had that completed element to it. And once again, this is a model program. I mean, a model. In other words, this is what it could look like, right? It's got the language and wording in there. So if parents or not parents, but school entities or workforce services or whoever needs to move those components around in whatever way to do that.
You want to speak to your motion, I got to get a second, but I want to make sure.
Sorry.
Okay, I know you're,
Sorry.
we're wanting to move on this, so I'm just helping with the process here. So as you see it on the screen, Board Member Earl, where it's adding active parent notification, adding the word ban, adding the word my child, is that, I just want to make sure we get your motion right so I can get a second.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a second?
Second, Member Mosh.
Okay. Motion is the second. Did you want to speak more to the motion?
No, I don't. I think I did that. So
You did a good job. Okay, any other discussion to the motion? Jennifer Swanson, I see your hand. Is your hand raised for a concern? Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify the intention of that bottom section. It really probably should have been on two separate documents. The top part was for the parent. The bottom part was for the local education agency or private provider to signify that they have notified parents as their assurance to us that this top part has been addressed and now they're confirming that. So this was not meant to be for the parent to fill out. That puts an additional burden on the parent to return this form, the schools to track down the form if it doesn't get returned. This was meant to be a notification document. This is now becoming like a release form of some sort of notification. So just wanted to highlight the differences between what we had previously, which I can totally understand why it's not clear, and what is being proposed with Board Member Earl's motion.
So, and I guess I was trying to clear that up. So I think that was my intent because there was that confusion there trying to understand if this is a parent notification. Sorry, I did respond.
Okay, Board Member Earl.
That was just my comment there, was to respond to Jennifer Thronson. Just, and reading through it, I was trying to understand why we would have the LEA verify when we've got this other information up here. So I didn't understand the difference between the two, and this just provides clarity. So.
But doesn't this replace the quality, the assurance place that?
Actually, I think the quality assurance would be used by the LEA, right? So I guess in some ways I'm not intending to replace that. I guess this would be the addition to the model disclosure with the LEA assurance. I just used that similar language so that it was, I guess I'm not trying to replace that, if that makes sense. That assurance part, so it could be copied down below and left in the document as it was there. This was just so that it was a verification that went along with the model notification for parents.
Board Member Lear?
So I'm confused. First of all, this would be an addition. Is that right, Jenny, that you're proposing to the
Yes.
form?
Yes.
And
Well, it would be added to the other information on that form that goes just to the parent.
So
and second,
I think Whitney Phillips wants to answer that question too,
okay.
right when you asked. So
Question still.
So in this case, notification isn't required. Parental consent is not required. This is a state or federally funded education program. So the disclosure of the data from the preschools to USBE or DWS is permissive. That doesn't mean it's not the best practice. And so that's why we created this parental notification statement, just so that it's a little bit more transparent. And that's why Board Member Klein thought it would be best to be more transparent for parents to understand what's going on. However, providing this active notification, which I haven't seen that term before, I think gives, it's a little confusing to parents. It gives parents maybe rights that they don't necessarily have, but that they have the courtesy of having. And I'm not sure if what would happen, for example, if a parent doesn't sign this form, that the legislature still expects there to be testing and because money is given, that these programs need to be evaluated. And so I'm wondering if having parents sign this is a little deceptive, that they actually have the perception of a right to opt out when the legislature has made it clear that this is not something to opt out of. And so although it's a courtesy, having it formalized and wordsmith within this document, I think might be going beyond what the legislature would have you do.
Okay. Board Member Lear?
I had a further question that Whitney touched on. It's not really a question, it's more a comment. That in adding this, it doesn't say if the parent doesn't sign it, there won't be testing. It just has a space for the parent's name that she was informed. So I'm a little confused at what this really accomplishes, and think I'm done with modifying the form and don't support this. Thanks.
Vice Chair Davis?
Yeah, my question is, are they going to fill out an application, an SSID application, the parents somewhere else, and would that be the notification that is what they're doing? That question makes sense. Is this superfluous?
Jennifer Thompson?
Yes, thank you. They do not fill out a form. That is what the statement that we had before was for the LEA when they submit the SSID information in terms of these data points you see listed here. That is their notification that they're submitting this for SSIDs. The parent does not actually submit anything or approve these data points in their submission to USBE.
So, okay. And then there's,
Can I ask a follow-up?
well, yeah, there's other staff
Never mind.
members too that probably want to call. So yeah, go ahead with your follow-up.
It's okay. I just didn't realize that the organization was creating the SSID.
So USBE creates SSIDs. So if you're a LEA, you're able to do that on your own. If you're a private provider, you actually have to submit the student data to us because we don't have student information systems that transfer that data as we do in our charters and districts. And so for private providers, they actually have to submit this data directly to us through secure file transfers. and then we create SSIDs in our office.
I've got a quick question for Jennifer, or, well, Jennifer, maybe you can answer this. I am drawing a blank on who Amanda is that has their hand.
Amanda is with DWS.
Thank you. Okay. Amanda, your hand has been raised.
Yes, my name's Amanda McPeck. I'm
Amanda.
Oh.
Okay.
That's okay. My name is Amanda McPeck. I'm an attorney with the Department of Workforce Services. And I just wanted to reiterate what Whitney was saying about the school readiness assessment. And we would share concerns that having an active parent notification where parents of private preschool providers would need to sign would be an additional burden that implies a right for the parents that may not actually be there. And we wouldn't want to have that kind of confusion for our private preschool providers. Thank you, that's all.
Okay, thank you. Whitney Phillips, your hand was raised too, and I know who you are. And I apologize, Amanda.
No, that was supposed to be down. Sorry, let's take that down.
Okay. Member Klein.
So I was just thinking, if what I'm hearing is correct, if the parent signs the child up for this particular preschool, then they will be required to take the test and the data will be shared. Is that what I'm understanding? And that there are no parental rights to opt out. Is that correct?
Whitney or Jennifer?
So I'm going to hit the last point first and then get some clarification. So it's correct. This is not a test that meets the legislative standard for an opt-outable exam. It's not on a state platform. It doesn't meet the requirements to be considered a state exam, and therefore is not an opt-outable exam. That does not mean a parent doesn't have the right to say, I'm not taking this test, or my child's not going to take this test. Can you give me a little clarification on the first question?
Trying to remember what that was exactly. If they have to. So I'm just thinking, is this notification, is it supposed to be just so that the parent knows what will be required?
Yeah, it's really our opportunity to kind of share with them. We are collecting this data. It's from a transparency kind of viewpoint, right, to let them be aware that we have this assessment that we'll be giving, and these are the data points we'll be sharing for transparency. But in terms of the right to take it, part of the enrollment in the program is that this test is required. And so that this notification is really just letting parents know this happens. And if you're not comfortable with that, to please contact someone in that contact person we identified to let them know, and they can talk you through your options.
Okay. I guess my concern was that they think they're signing their child up for a private school, which they don't typically think that that has anything to do with government data collection, right? And so the point is to make them aware that even though this is a private school, they've opted into this program, this government program that will require that data to be collected. That's where the parent needs to absolutely know what is going on.
And that was the intent of that opening part of this passage, rather than getting a signature saying I've read this, which is basically what we're asking, is for parents to do their homework in terms of, well, let me submit this form now. The intention of this was just awareness, rather than, they don't actually get to give permission, but they can reach out and say, I'm not comfortable with this. So
or find another daycare.
Yeah.
Board Member Hanson.
Thanks. I appreciate the intent of this one, but personally, I feel like we've covered that with the additions we've already made, and making sure that parents are aware of the data sharing. I'm worried about creating more red tape as far as following up and making sure that all these are in a file. I'm also worried about enforcement. What if a parent doesn't sign and their kids are enrolled? do we take the kids out if the parents don't sign, or, how is all that handled? I just think we create another bit of bureaucracy when we make this further addition to this. Thanks.
Okay. Board member or Vice Chair Belknap.
Yes, I'd like to call the question, please.
Okay. Okay, we have a call to question. This is an end debate on this, and we vote on this. So
I believe that needs a second.
I'm trying to see if I heard a second. I haven't wrote a second.
I second that, Molly Hart.
Okay, Molly Hart, thank you. Okay, we have a motion to end debate. We have a second. Board members, at this time, we vote on ending debate. Okay, voting is complete and the voting is unanimous.
It was unanimous, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, we've ended debate. So the motion on the table is that we add this to that parent disclosure form. Am I saying it correct, Vice Chair Belknap? Is that what that's entitled? This
Yeah,
one?
it's now an action parental notification.
Yeah. So we add to it to say preschool program, we add active parent notification. And then as it reads, I verify that and then we add the word ban, notify that we add the word my child. And then it continues will, and then we add have an SSID created. And then the form continues on to say, and that the following data will be shared with the Utah State Board of Education, student name, date of birth, birth certificate number, gender, parent or guardian's name, home language, and pre-K entry and exit profile P score. So that's the motion on the table. We've ended debate. At this time, board members, please vote. I thought I saw the voting was unanimous. Did you see that? Or not unanimous, it did not pass without, I didn't see a yes vote.
I just didn't see Board Member Earl, Chair.
That's the one
Thank you. It's a no.
Okay. Thank you. So where we're at, we have under number 3, DWS data sharing agreement request as amended with what was passed. Does anyone want to make a motion on the general consent calendar item 3, DWS data sharing agreement request as amended? To be, well, maybe I should say this, it might be easier. I'm seeking a motion under general consent calendar number 3 that the DWS data sharing agreement request as amended be passed.
So moved.
Okay.
Hart.
Second.
Do we have a second? Member Stray, discussion to the motion? I'm not seeing it.
No. Waived.
I'm not seeing any hands raised. So board members at this time, please vote. Vice Chair Belknap, it looks like it's unanimous vote.
Yes, it is, Chair.
Okay, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, The other item that was pulled was item 4, which is an action item, lifelong learner project that was pulled by Board Member Earl. Board Member Earl, do you want to speak to that item?
Yeah, this is a blockchain item. I understand that there's some benefits to it, but there's also, I think, some concerns with blockchain out there. I just won't be voting for this. And that's all I have to say.
Okay. Not seeing any of their hands raised, so I'll put a motion before the board. I'm seeking a motion that under general consent calendar number 4, lifelong learner project, that this passes, or this comes before the board for a vote. The lifelong learner project.
So moved, Chair. Belknap.
Okay. Do we have
Second,
a-
Lear.
Okay, thank you, Board Member Lear. Discussion to the motion. Is it not seeing any? Please vote. The motion passes with 2 no votes. The no votes are Board Member Klein and Board Member Earl. Okay, that concludes our consent items.